Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bruce Konechny. Welcome to my podcast, One Man's Voice. Today is April 27, 2019. And I want to talk to you about some of these people running for the presidency of the United States on the Democratic side. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the news media is starting to hint at the fact that we have a problem at the border. Okay, we have thousands of people trying to get into this country illegally. And they lie to get into this country, and they're told to lie. Okay? Now, here's the problem with that. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Our country is leading towards more automation and repairs and maintenance of computers and robots and being more sophisticated in our way that we do business. We know that you can go into a grocery store, scan all the items yourself. And in some, I've visited a Fry's, I take a handheld scanner, I put my card in there, and as I pick things up, I scan everything, put it in my cart, and then at the end, I just put the scanner up near the cashier, the self-help teller. It says, "This is how much you owe." I put my card in, I'm done. I don't need a cashier. And as long as I know where everything's at, I don't need someone telling me where to find things. That's a whole lot easier. But when you bring 30,000 uneducated people into this country, or 70 or 100, what jobs are we going to give them? Most of them don't have high school educations. Some have trade, like carpenter, some plumber. We're going to bring an illegal alien into this country to be a carpenter or a plumber and give them $15, $16 an hour? Now, here's part of the problem, is that our federal government sends money to these countries that are sending their people here to live in our country. And those people who do get in here, who do work, send money back to the country for their families to live off of. They're fat jacking it, people, and we're not making anything out of it. We're losing money. Now, those same people, free medical, they get free dental, they get clothing, they get housing, and they get an allowance for food, food stamps, and welfare. They're even trying to give them our Social Security. Now, understand this. The Social Security is a trust fund, not a tax. They call it a tax, but it's a trust fund. It is the trust that the government set up for us to put our money into so that when we get older, there's money for us to spend on retirement. But no, they think it's money they can do whatever they want with, and they want to give it to illegals. For all of you Democrats that are out there, you got to open your eyes and understand the truth about what's happening. Because if you don't, we lose our country. We cannot afford to give people who have no education, no job skills, a place to live in our country and give them free stuff. It just doesn't work. What about the people that are already here? Well, under the Trump administration, welfare is down. Food stamps are down. So we have money to give to other people. No, that's not it. How about we take that money that's down and put it towards our debt? Are they doing that? No, they can't, because the Democratic Party refuses to acknowledge the fact that we have a $22 trillion debt. Refuses. It's okay. Because you know what happens if America fails to pay its bills? Do you know what happens if America declares bankruptcy? We go into a depression. And if you think that us as a nation is sad going into a depression, our depression will affect the rest of the world. Will the Democrats tell you that? No. If you don't believe me, take a look at the housing crisis back in 2008 and 9, when our insurance companies closed their doors and said we're bankrupt. When banks were unable to do their jobs. What happened? The rest of the world suffered. Do you understand that? We went from 14,000 points on the Dow down to 7,000 points. People in this country lost almost everything they had for their retirement accounts. Don't worry, we still got Social Security, but oh no, Social Security, no, we're not going to have Social Security after 2038. Well, that's okay. Okay, I don't mind because 2038, I'm going to be too old to really care about it. And since it's a socialist government, they'll have to take care of me as an elder. Okay? So I'm not worried about it. But for you young kids, when you have a government that thinks that your retirement program, your retirement trust fund is just money for them to spend however they want, you're the ones that are suffering. And who's doing that more than anybody else? The Democratic Party. If you go back and study history, it was Johnson, President Johnson, spent down the Social Security fund in order to fund the Vietnam War. Now, had he not done that, we wouldn't be in the boat that we're in. But I guarantee you that the Democrats would be figuring out other ways to spend our Social Security fund. So understand, ladies and gentlemen, our government cares nothing for us. And I'm going to show you how and why. Okay? 1963, 98% of this country, and that's what they say, but I'll say 89 to 90% of this country were church-going Christians. I'm not even going to say that. 90% of this country were churchgoers. Christians, Jews, Catholics, and Muslims. Because we did have Muslims back in the 60s. We all attended church, or mosques, or temples. We all believed in a higher power, God the Father. One voice of hatred came out and wanted prayer taken out of school. One voice. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court looked out and said, gee, a lot of people supporting taking prayer out of school. There's no one here to support keeping it in. We're taking it out. 0 precedents, which means they did not look back into the Constitution to see why prayer was important for school. Now, understand the Supreme Court Justice, the first one, said we are not a Christian nation. So any of you people out there that think we're a Christian nation, get over it. We are what is known as a Judeo-Christian nation. We are a nation that believes in the teachings of Jesus Christ and the Ten Commandments. But as 1963 showed us, that's going to change. And over the course of years, more and more attacks on Christianity have occurred in this country. Roe versus Wade sat there and said in the preamble of the Constitution that says, we the people, oh my gosh, I can't remember the preamble. Hold on a second. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, liberty is freedom. So what the ACLU said in the Supreme Court decision when they were fighting for abortion was that the freedom of women have the right to choose what to do with their body. And the Supreme Court held that up. And in 1973, Roe versus Wade. Today, with New York and Virginia have written laws that allow a woman to have an abortion up to the day she is delivering. And if that baby survives the abortion, it is now outside the mother's womb. They can talk to their doctors and say, let the baby die. Now, I agree a woman has a right to do what she wants with her body. But once that baby is separate from her, it has nothing to do with her body. And therefore, that's murder. If a woman sits there and says, kill the baby because I don't want it, that's murder. Has nothing to do with her body anymore. And if they're going to do that, then we need to start arresting these people. Again, an attack against the family. The American Atheist Organization have been attacking Christianity. There used to be a President Davidson, I don't know if he still is, used to put billboards up in New York. Santa's real, Jesus Christ is a myth. That's an attack against Christianity. That's religious discrimination, religious hatred. But they're allowed. The Democrats will allow them to do that. And the Republicans had no backbone, none at all, to stand up against this false teachings. And so it went on and on. We have to tear down crosses because even though nonpartisan organizations put the crosses up in respect to our soldiers who died in the battlefield, that's a violation of church and state because it's on state property or government property. Who cares? Who cares? The nativity scene. Now, I don't know if a lot of you atheists know this. Jesus Christ was born out of wedlock. Technically, he's a bastard child to a woman who said someone came along and got her pregnant. Now, I believe in the virgin birth. Don't get me wrong. But here is a child born out of wedlock, a bastard child, goes from that to the age of 30, and today millions of people follow his teachings. You want to talk about discrimination? How many atheists can tell me anybody who's out there preaching that has such a following that was an illegitimate child, according to current laws? Okay? It's sad. It really is. Because if you truly look at the life and times of Jesus Christ, he was not a rich man. The rich men wanted him dead. The rich men wanted to crucify him, and they did. They feared the loss of power, is what they did, thanks to Jesus Christ. And actually, I have to say thanks to Paul, because Paul went around preaching that Jesus Christ was the Messiah. And if anybody knows anything about history when it comes to the Jewish people back at that time period, they were looking for the Messiah. The Messiah was to come in secret. He was to come in strength to restore the throne of David. And when Jesus was asked about that, he said, I'm not here for myself. I'm here for my Father's kingdom. And he held true to that. So they crucified him because they thought he was trying to take control and power. I guess you could say the ones in power were Democrats, and he was a Republican. Crucify him, destroy him. But you can't touch the Muslim faith. You can't touch the Jewish faith. But you can destroy a faith that this country was founded on and set a moral and an ethical code for us to live by. Joe Biden comes out there and says, we need to have a code. We have to have a moral code. Okay, Joe, let's see how smart you are. Is allowing babies after a failed abortion to sit and die, is that a moral code you want to live by? Allowing 14-year-old girls to be raped and sexually assaulted as they cross the border of even any child, to have young boys and girls the subject of abuse by pedophiles, to allow drugs to come into this country to destroy the mental capabilities of our people? Is this the moral code you want to live by? Do you want to live by a moral code that from the day President Trump won the election, Maxine Waters called for impeachment? Is that a moral code you want to live by? Because you can't impeach somebody who hasn't even been in office. And how about Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, who are sitting there crying for impeachment, crying that they're going to be the obstructionist party. They're not helping the American people by being an obstructionist. And you want to have a more moral and an ethical code that we used to live by? And AOC is out there putting you down because you're an old white man. Is that okay? I don't think so. But that's the way it's going, Joe. You really think you're going to win the nomination of the Democratic Party? You better guess again. You're a joke. That's all you are, is a joke. Because your time has come and gone. When we sit and listen to you talk, and you just seem to want to say everything is okay. You're not boring? And some of the gaffes, I wish they would bring up the gaffes that you had, because you're a sitting senator, a vice president. They should bring up the stuff that you said as vice president to show your ignorance and stupidity. That's the way it should be, but they're not going to do that. You're a respected statesman who, if I'm not mistaken, they said didn't do anything but sit there and collect $174,000 a year. That's okay. You're going to run for presidency. So let's take a look at some of the other ones. Cory Booker. We have a crisis at the border. We need infrastructure change. We need to start creating better cities and streets, bridges. We need to take care of that sort of stuff. So what is he out there on the campaign trail doing? Talking about gun control. Gun control. You see, if you take the guns away from the American people and you have illegals coming into this country and there's no way to defend ourselves when they start to get violent, they're going to win. That's what they want. They want the illegals to take control because, you see, the government has the military. Military plow you down in a heartbeat. They really will. And Camille Harris, well, let me see. The election is in November 2020, which means if she wins, she'll take over in 2021. She's sitting there saying that in 2021, she's going to give Congress 100 days to pass legislation against guns. And if they can't, she'll write a presidential order. Why is she waiting? Why isn't she doing something now for that? And where is her outrage at the illegals, as well as Cory's, of the illegals coming across the border? About our children on the inner cities going without food, living in rags, in slums. Well, the illegals are more important. The illegals make America what America is. America's failing because the Democrats want it to fail. And the one thing they hate the most is Donald Trump is trying to change that and show we don't need to fail. We can succeed. And that's the way it is. And then you have Bernie Sanders. Oh my gosh, Bernie Sanders. Come on, Joe. I want you to talk about Bernie Sanders here, all right? He wants felons. You know, the child abusers, the murderers, the rapists. He wants them to be able to vote. Those on death row, terrorists. He wants them to be able to vote. And Democrats out there are pushing for 14-year-olds to vote. You know why? Because the majority of this country is still made up of the baby boomers. And they're spread out to the point where President Trump won the election on the basis of the Electoral College. Now, if you don't understand it, ladies and gentlemen, the Electoral College does not negate the popular vote. It equalizes the popular vote. If you have 30 million people in California all voting for the Democrats, what's the rest of the country? Nothing? Garbage? You've got 15,000 or 2 million in Idaho. Well, their votes don't count because the majority of the votes are from California. Therefore, the Democrats are going to win. That's what the Electoral College does. It equalizes the votes. So that's why the Democrats want illegals coming into this country and not going to sanctuary cities. They want them spread out throughout the country so they can change the Electoral College vote for the Democrats because they know the system works and they're upset with it. So let's do away with the Electoral College. It's not going to happen. Well, let's have 14-year-olds and illegals and felons vote. It's not going to happen. What about the border? What about infrastructure? What about the opioid crisis? We need 14-year-olds to vote. What about infrastructure? We should allow more illegal aliens to come into this country. What about infrastructure? What about the opioid crisis? Everything but the truth. And the moral code, you have to ask, Joe, what is the moral code? Our country and the Democrats are guilty of it. If you go back over the last 2 years and see how many have been accused of and how many people have lost their jobs, are being looked at to be prosecuted for sex crimes, sexual harassment of females. They're all Democrats. Congressmen lost their jobs because of sexual harassment. But wait a minute, hold on a second. Cory Booker sexually assaulted a young girl when he was in high school and wrote a letter of apology in a newspaper. So therefore, that's okay. That's all right. He can do that. And he can sit there and accuse Kavanaugh of sexual assault without even hearing the case. That we have to believe her without hearing the case. Because a woman should be believed without hearing the case. That's reverse discrimination. You understand that. As a black man, he shouldn't even be in office. He's sexually assaulted. And to be a representative of the government insults every American citizen. And then he attacks Kavanaugh? Sad. And you want to hear some more? Reverse discrimination? Camille Harris attacks him without proof. Believe her, he's guilty. Get rid of him. You understand, this is all because of Donald Trump. If he was a Democrat, they wouldn't touch him. They wouldn't touch him at all. They were a disgrace as a governing body to this country because of the way they acted in the Kavanaugh hearings. They were a disgrace. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Democratic Party. That's who you're going to vote for? And all of you Jews out there in New York and around the country who sit there and support the Democratic Party, remember, Omar is an anti-Semitic. She takes her marching orders from that clown out in California. Okay? You know who I'm talking about. And she's out there spewing anti-Semitic remarks, and you're voting for the Democrats? You know what it's like to live under, your ancestors should have told you what it's like to live under Hitler and his totalitarian regime, where millions of you were slaughtered because you wouldn't listen, you wouldn't do, because you were Jews? And Omar's out there saying the world should hate you. And Farrakhan is supporting her. That's the clown I'm talking about. You know that. But you're going to vote for Democrats again. Why? Do you want socialism in this country? Do you want a government that is going to turn its back on the American people? Well, we already know the one thing that they care about more is gun control, not about the border, not about slave trafficking, not about drugs, not about inner cities, not about anything that's important to the American people. Nancy Pelosi refused to fund it. Even though she voted for the wall, she refused to fund it. She doesn't care about the American people. She needs to be taken out. She needs to be charged with treason and sent to trial to show how she's done that. Now, they say that President Trump colluded with the Russians. Yet, you remember that one news article where Obama leaned across to the president of Russia and said, tell Vladimir that once the election's over with, I'll have more flexibility. And what about that guy that worked for the the House member out of Florida, who was accused of stealing and hacking the Democrats and sending that information over to his family in Pakistan? You think maybe that contributed to the downfall of the presidency under Hillary Clinton? And what about the 20% of the uraniums that Obama and Hillary's political party voted to give to the Russians to make them stronger? That's not collusion? And what about Benghazi? When a terrorist attack, which she said to her own daughter it was a terrorist attack, it wasn't the film, that they lied to the American people, and it's okay because they refused to acknowledge terrorists. Imagine if they did that 8 years earlier, how much better off we would be if they went after the terrorists like Trump did. But they didn't want to acknowledge terrorists. They wanted terrorism to grow. And when terrorists over there, the ISIS or whatever they were called, were cutting off the heads of Christians who refused to follow Muhammad, Obama was opening the doors to Muslims to come into this country. Muslims coming in from one side, illegals coming in from the other side. Everybody's coming in to change the American way of life. And the Democrats are allowing it. Nancy Pelosi should be charged with treason. So should Chuck Schumer. When he stood up there at the podium and said, we are the party of obstruction. We will not support the President of the United States. That is a treasonous remark. And he should be found guilty of it. He should be locked up. But, politicians don't get arrested. They don't get locked up. Yeah, they should. Because they are of the people, by the people, and most importantly, for the people. But when our government leaders care more about Muslims coming to this country, more about illegals coming to this country, and less about the American people, they are treasonous and they need to be arrested. The server Hillary Clinton put out there that got hacked into, whose fault? Is it the Republicans? No. And have to think about this, all right? Please open your ears, Democrats. All of this took place under the Obama administration, but yet Donald Trump colluded. Are you that stupid to believe that? Are you that stupid to think that this was all Donald Trump? This is a coup attempt to take control of the federal government, and it failed. The original trial was to get President Trump out, get Pence in, find something on Pence, get him out, and let that weak, moronic idiot that we had as Speaker of the House on the Republican side take over as President of the United States and have him concede the presidency to Hillary Clinton. That was their original plan. And they used a false dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton, conspiracy, collusion, to attack the President of the United States. 3 separate investigations concluded that President Trump did not collude with the Russians, nor did he try to interfere in the investigation. And when the Mueller report came out, that was the fourth one that said he did not collude and he did not try to interfere. You see, ladies and gentlemen, probable cause. You got to look at probable cause. If the president said, fire Mueller now, and he got fired, that's probable cause to say that he is attempting, or he has tried to influence the investigation. Not necessarily so. He may have said, I want this guy fired, I want that guy fired, I want this done, I want that done. That's speech, okay? That man over there tried to beat me. Well, did he hit you? No, but he said he's going to beat me. Did he hit you? No, then there's nothing we can do. Probable cause. He has the right to say. Now, there is a subclause to that. If you are put in fear of your life because the man is standing there saying, I'm going to beat you to death, and he's got a stick in his hand, that's a different story. But to sit there and look you in the face and say, I'm going to kill you, until the act of trying to do that, there's no probable cause for the violation. And that's what happened with this whole investigation. 2 years, $35 million, and they concluded that, well, there's no evidence of collusion, there's no evidence of tampering. However, we may not have all of the evidence, and I'd have to reread the final paragraph. But basically it says continue to look, because Mueller didn't have the spine or the backbone to go to the Democratic Party and say, there's nothing there. Get over it, get a grip, because that's still part of trying to overthrow our elected officials. You have to understand that. So I have to ask our leader of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, is that the moral code that you want to live by? Is that the moral code that you want this country to live by? I'm going to tell you what the biggest problem in this country is right now, and the Democrats support it. And what they support is reverse discrimination. Cory Booker should not be in Congress. He violated a young woman's life. And just saying I'm sorry in a news article doesn't mean anything. We've seen people who have sexually assaulted, verbally assaulted women be kicked out of Congress. Why isn't he? Reverse discrimination. He's a black man. We can't touch him. You've got a Democratic leader in the governorship of Virginia who sat there and jokingly put on blackface in the 80s, which is technically a discrimination. But they're not going to touch him because why? Well, he's a Democrat. That's reverse discrimination. We'll do it to Republicans, but we won't do it to Democrats. And his second in command, well, he's a black man who have two women coming up saying he was assaulted, or they were assaulted by him, and nothing's going to happen to him either. Because it's reverse discrimination. We're going to allow them to do whatever they want, and we can't say anything about it. Where is Albert Sharpton? Where is the black women's groups that are trying to fight for women's rights? Standing up and say, this man needs to go. Oh, no, because he's a black man. We're going to be able to keep him. But do it to the white people. Get rid of the white people. That's this whole thing. The elderly white, the baby boomers in this country who have helped to build this country to be the greatest nation in the world. You want to destroy that. There's a Black Lives Matter. You want to talk about reverse discrimination? They're the worst. I will tell you this. No lives matter. Okay? As a Christian pastor, it's not really what you want to hear me say. But there's the caveat to that. No lives matter, because when you say one person is above another, then you discriminate. When you say Black Lives Matter, but you don't say brown or white lives matter, you're discriminating. And who's supporting it is the Democratic Party. Is that what you want? No lives matter. What matters is that we unite under a moral and an ethical code that made this country great. Yes, abortion is illegal. Yes, rape is illegal. Yes, incest is illegal. Yes, felons don't get a right to vote. Yes, 14-year-olds need to learn to grow up before they can vote. Yes, we need to stop the drugs coming into this country. Yes, we need to put our leaders who are trying to destroy this country on trial for treason. Yes, you want to change this country? Change the moral and ethical code. AOC needs to go because of her ignorance and stupidity. That one from Michigan, Orca, whatever her name is, she needs to go because she's a racist. She's anti-Semitic. Here's a girl girl, that's what she is. She's not a woman, she's a girl. She went from a country that was in turmoil. We gave her a place to live in this country. We gave her the right to become an American citizen. We elected her into the House of Representatives, and she turns her back on the American people by being anti-Semitic and pro-Muslim. And they, all Democrats, attack the Christian way of life, the Catholic way of life. If you don't see it, if you don't understand it, if you can't open your eyes and ears to know the truth, we've lost. You've lost this country, especially you elderly who are voting for the Democratic Party. Your Democratic Party, the party of Kennedy, is no longer available. It is the party of racists, of sexism, of discrimination, of lying, of cheating. That's the new Democratic Party. And for all of you senior Democrats, if you still believe in this party, you're sadly mistaken. I want to thank you. I've gone a little over what I normally talk, but I tried to cover a lot of topics in a short period of time. All I ask you to do, open your ears, open your eyes, see the truth, hear the truth, and make a rational decision to stop supporting a party that is trying to destroy the American way of life. It'll never work, people. Now, I don't want a one-party system. That's what they want. Because if they win, the Democrats are going to destroy the Republicans. And the Democrats will never allow Republicans into the House. They will make the decisions. If that's the kind of government you want, we've got a bunch over in Europe that do that already. AOC, you don't like the capitalist system? Go to Europe. Okay? Orca, whatever your name is, you don't like the way our country is? Go back to the Middle East. But you see, you won't do that because you don't want to live in that. You want to change this country because that is what the Russians have been trying to do since World War II. And you're now finally thinking you've got the majority of the people on your side. You can do it. Again, I'm sorry to carry on so long about so much. God bless each and every one of you. Pray that your eyes and ears are open to the truth of what's going on in this country. Take care.